Hello to our global audience that is growing, and thank you so much for your support. Today is the 3rd of August. A lot is going on in the world, and you have heard from our military analyst, you have heard from our global reporter, Pepe Escobar, and you have been kind enough to give us a lot of your comments, a lot of it very positive. And we are committed to bring to you different perspectives from different people with a different idea as to what is going on. And that is the reason I am delighted, I am honored to have with us again Sabrina, who is in the studio with me, and she will give you her perspective with the tectonic shifts that are taking place in the global south, which affect us, which affect everybody. So, hello, Sabrina. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So, over the weekend, Donald Trump made a huge threat towards Iran and said that he was going to cut off their electricity, which, of course, is a war crime. And he was bragging about this over the weekend and basically announcing that there was going to be this huge military action against Iran from the United States. Then come Sunday, he decided to just back off of all of that and said that there was going to be this renegotiation and he was going to work with Iran and that they were going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to everyone and that it would go back to the conditions that they had before. What was revealed by Iran that was a lie, that they did not agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to everyone. That was, of course, Donald Trump finding a way to back out of this yet once again. And Donald Trump, the past, I'd say 48 hours, has been claiming that the US is not striking Iran right now because they've already won. They meaning the US. The reality is the reason why the Trump administration, this is something that we saw recently from sources, the Trump administration decided to stop striking Iran, at least for now, and backed away from doing those threats that he said he was going to do is because of the threats that are in the region. So this is Donald Trump realizing, I guess finally at some point, that what would come of that. And one of those things came from Iran, which Iran made it very clear that if the US were to obliterate their electricity or turn off their electricity, that what they were going to do is they were going to demolish all of those plants in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, etc., that they would destroy all of their oil and gas infrastructure, which ultimately would lead to a global collapse. The Trump administration knows that that is a possibility and that is a reality. But when he's speaking to the American people, he says this in such a way to make them think that the US is actually winning. So he says, we decided not to heavily strike Iran. We have resumed, decided not to have those strikes for right now. And we're going to try to get back to the negotiating table. We won. So we don't need to strike them because we won. Obviously, that is a lie. But that is what he's saying to keep his base believing that he's doing the right thing here. But the reality is that Donald Trump, the Trump administration, and of course, these generals that are surrounding him, they have made it very clear that there's no win here if you were to do that to Iran because they do have weapons that are buried like very deep below the ground. The IRGC just recently released a video showing that. That was the first time I saw the IRGC show some of those weapons that they can't get to, and that apparently also nuclear weapons cannot destroy. So Iran would retaliate, as they said, and they would destroy the oil and gas in places like Saudi Arabia and, of course, Bahrain. And that would be a big problem, not just for the United States, but for the entire world. So, long story short, the Trump administration is making it sound as though the US has won, and that's why they don't need to strike Iran right now. But the reality is, Donald Trump chickened out because of that threat, that retaliation threat that came from Iran, which is very real.
Well, Sabrina, we recorded a session with our military analyst, and that was published just moments ago. Larry Johnson, very beloved by many people all over the world, and Larry had a really good way of explaining this, and he said that he was reminded of the Runaway Bride with with Mr. Trump. where Mr. Trump is the bride, Arakchi, the foreign minister of Iran, is the groom, and the bride always runs away. I mean, that is, we have seen this. Taco, Trump always chicken out. Now the runaway bride. Uh, what is going on with this guy? I mean, he should know. How can he do this?
Some of it is just ego. That's a big part of it. He doesn't want to admit that he's losing here and that he can't beat them. So that's part of it. But the other part of it is, and I still stand by it till this day. A big part of the reason why the U.S. and Israel decided to strike Iran was to distract people from the Epstein files, right? The timing of that is very, very suspect. But right now, the White House is in shambles, and people have to remember like what you see in these interviews. Donald Trump had a press conference earlier today. What you see happening there, again, that's just for show. I was talking about this a couple of nights ago that they're actors. Trump, JD Vance, all of them, they are acting for an audience. Their job is to reassure their base that they made the right decision and that the US is actually winning here. But they know the real truth. Just to show you how the White House is in shambles right now, it was just reported early Monday morning that the military, right now, the Pentagon, they are asking for advice. They don't know what to do. Again, this just came through earlier this morning. US military is asking troops for creative and unconventional ideas to punish Iran. This is coming from senior officers in the US military command. They have no plan. And I'm actually shocked that that was even reported. But they don't know what they're doing. They know they can't win, but at the same time, they have to keep up the appearance that they're winning. And it's just been a complete embarrassment, I think. Donald Trump continues to say that the U.S. obliterated Iran's navy, that they don't have weapon capability. But then there was that surprise attack when Benjamin Netanyahu visited the United States for Lindsey Graham's funeral. There was the surprise attack from Iran. And it's just, if you obliterated their military, how are they still implementing strikes at this point in time? So it's obvious everyone can see what's going on. So I guess the big question is going to be, how long is he going to continue to keep up these lies before even some of his supporters wake up to this?
Well, Sabrina, that's a very good point that you just made. How long can he keep this up? And as we have reported on our channel, particularly in the last couple of days, where we did emergency broadcast because we had available to us information from inside the room, so to speak, where all these decisions are being made, because we have access, honored to have access to people like Asim Munir, who is central to all of these discussions. Iran is in no way ready to negotiate with Mr. Trump ever, ever, ever again. And that has been made very clear. They're saying, no, no, we already made a deal. You signed it. We signed it. Just go ahead and implement that right now. And all of this can stop. And it has been made very clear. Now, regarding the Navy, we reported on our channel a couple of days ago, maybe yesterday, that this was reported by Asim Munir to Mr. Trump, that Iran has a 2,000 strong naval fleet. This they called it the mosquito fleet. The small naval boats, very very fast, equipped with torpedo, very lethal, two-man crews, ready to die if necessary, and they are ready to swarm. I mean, again, a very different tactic that has proven successful over and over again. So 2 weeks from now, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is going to be near empty.
I spoke to Professor Mohammed Morandi recently, and he said this is not something that Iran doesn't want to take out Saudi or Bahrain's like oil and gas infrastructure, but if their electricity is hit, they will be forced to do so. So this is not something that they just openly want to do. But he made it very clear. He said Iran is not going to stand by and just allow the US to attack their infrastructure and not respond. And I think something that more people are waking up to is that what happens to those countries when or if Iran does that? What would happen, right? So Saudi Arabia and Bahrain, again, if you're looking at those countries, they have a lot of oil and gas. If Iran destroys that infrastructure, the people are going to have to leave those countries. They'll have to leave Saudi Arabia and they'll have to leave Bahrain. Where they will go, I don't know. But then we're talking about another issue here where people would have to flee. And that is the reality. And this is also part of the reason why I think Donald Trump is trying to work with Saudi Arabia to give them approval to enrich uranium. He's giving them the green light to go ahead with that. Caroline Levitt, press secretary, tried to make it seem as though, oh, it's just a business decision. No, it's to find a way to stop Iran or to stop the resistance, because that's ultimately what Iran is. That is the thorn in Israel's side, is Iran. They feel like they've beaten down and killed a lot of the Palestinian people. They've made their way into Syria. They're bombing Lebanon right now again, by the way. And the one big issue that they have is Iran, which Israel cannot beat on its own. The US cannot beat on its own. And obviously, from what we've seen, the Israel and the US can't beat Iran together either. And so that brings up the question about the other NATO countries. How long is it before those countries will be forced or pushed, so to speak, to get involved here? Many of them have rejected it from the beginning, and they told Donald Trump, you started this. This is your thing. We do not want to be involved. But then we see how a country like Spain, who spoke out very vocally towards Donald Trump and did speak out in favor of, the Palestinian people, the US is trying to find ways to punish Spain at this point right now. That's part of what people just saw with the story that was reported that there's Moroccan migrants that are flooding like Ceuta in Spain. And that also was a psyop. Like, what they did not tell you about that story is that Congress actually voted on that. They voted to give that part of that tiny town there of Spain, which is on the continent of Africa, to basically give that over to Morocco. That was something that they've been voting on, and also something that Donald Trump first mentioned in 2020. So that was during his first presidential term. But they're trying to find all different ways to distract people, and I just want everybody to realize that I think you're going to see a number of things that are going to happen within the next year or so. I call them false flags that are going to be used as a distraction, right, to get you to turn your face away from the things that are really happening, and also to get you to blame Iran. There will be more of that comes forward, where there's going to be attacks that I believe are going to happen, and they're going to blame it on Iran. So everyone just get ready for that.
Sabrina, the question is when the oil runs out, okay, literally when the oil begins to run out, uh, the lies are not going to solve that issue, because if push comes to shove, we have reported this year with authentic in the room reporting that Iran has the ability to turn off the spigot not only from the Strait of Hormuz but also from the Red Sea, which means all of Saudi oil doesn't get to wherever it needs to go. So how long can these lies last? Where can where can this lead to anything that is even remotely good?
Yeah, I think that, more people are waking up to this. I've actually seen a couple of people that did support Trump online finally admitting that this was not a good idea, right? So some people are waking up, but there's always going to be those who see him as an idol. And that is a drug that is hard for some people to shake. Once they decide that someone is their hero or their idol, it's almost as if there's nothing that they can do that would change their opinion of them, unless there is a serious, serious economic collapse. So things have been tough here in the US economically recently, but we haven't hit rock bottom yet. So if that were to happen, if Iran did end up, striking Saudi's oil and Bahrain's oil, and if the oil runs out, that is going to be the trigger that would wake, I think, more of them up. Some of them are still going to try to find a way to blame Iran, even though the US and Israel struck Iran first. But I think it's going to have to be an economic collapse where we have hit rock bottom, and even some of the people who are doing well financially also hit that type of rock bottom. And you know what will happen when that day comes? If Donald Trump is still in office, he has a place that he can go hide to. You know, this is part of the reason why he wanted that ballroom. He's making jokes right now about running for president in 2028, that he wants to be president again. Obviously, that's against the law. Like you can't do this third term, but he's continuing to bring this up. He's posting pictures about it on Truth Social. You know, eventually it's going to get to the point where you won't be able to get to him. So he really does just want to be like a king and a dictator, and he doesn't care. He made a statement recently. He doesn't care if Republicans lose in the midterms. He just said that the other day. He doesn't care if more people die because of this war with Iran. He really doesn't care. And right now, I would say he's not in the right mental state. But the people around him are enabling that behavior. The Marco Rubio, the JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, and they're not going to say anything because they don't want to lose their position or the little bit of power that they have. Ultimately, that's part of the reason why those generals, you know, were fired. And there's other ones that are speaking out now too, and another one just resigned. I mean, this is just, it's gotten to the point now where if you try to tell him, listen, this is a mistake, we cannot, fight Iran, we're not going to win, we're wasting resources, we're losing planes, we don't have enough weapons, which is another thing that's coming up, which some people don't really want to get into. But the reality is we don't have the weapon inventory like we used to have, because we've used so much of, we've given Ukraine weapons, we've been given Israel weapons before the US decided to bomb Iran. So we don't have it like that. Meanwhile, Iran has a lot of weapons. Again, the IRGC just showed the video of the weapons that they have deep beneath the ground that, again, nuclear weapon is not going to destroy. So this is the reality. He doesn't want to accept it. And ultimately, I mean, I think he would drive us into complete economic disaster.
Well, Sabrina, he made a bold-faced lie, saying that progress has been made, and Iran came right back and said, "Oh, no, 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 no progress has been made. No talks are going on. Nothing, nothing, not at all. Just go ahead and implement what we already agreed to do." And if he did that, that would be admitting defeat, which I hope he does. But I cannot believe that he will ever do that. I mean, so that's a dilemma. Uh, Iran is not going to negotiate. Iran is very well equipped. We reported that on this channel with inside reporting. They have the ability to survive this for months, months, with more advanced weapons coming in every single day via Russia directly through the Caspian Sea, via the Gawadar, the deep sea port that links China to Pakistan, and by way by from there on, by directly by truck to Iran. So Iran is supplied. Iran is a very large country. My question to you then, Sabrina, because you are a observer of this, very acute observer. You are like the 300 million people that live in this country, myself included. We are facing not a distant future where everything is going to come collapse. We are facing a 2 week future. The oil is going to run out in 2 weeks. The SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserve, is expected to hit an unbelievable rock bottom in 2 weeks. Where does that take us?
I'm glad you asked that question. So, the US government already has a plan, and it's an oil lockdown. So, everyone get ready for this one because we had the lockdowns during the pandemic. But this is an oil lockdown. They have step by step guide as to what they are going to implement if this happens. And it's very similar to what we saw during the pandemic. It's called oil sheltering stocks. This is the plan. Most of the people that can work from home will have to work from home. So we're back to it'll be go back to people working remotely if they can do so. They are going to limit the number of cars that can actually drive on the road. So if you have to commute to your job, you will have to carpool. This is all like in the document. You will have to carpool. Students will also have to learn remotely once again instead of going to school. They talk about rationing food in this document because, of course, the oil is still connected to the trucks that deliver the food to the stores, etc. You guys get the point. So the, we could be possibly looking at another lockdown here in the United States. And this time, like from this plan, it doesn't sound like this is something that the governors would implement. It sounds like it would be a federal lockdown. So they've already planned this out as to what is going to happen. And I ultimately feel like if there's going to be another lockdown in this country, regardless of the reason, I think people will revolt. I really do. This all over oil. So what they're going to try to do is make you stay at home once again. Now, another reason this is important is because of the timing. We are getting closer to November. November is the midterm elections. And I'm sitting back and I'm waiting to see if they're going to implement some type of lockdown before the midterm elections. Because if they do that, then ultimately that could change some things, that could push things, in the favor towards the GOP. We don't know what's going to happen, but right now the behavior that we're seeing from the Trump administration at this point in time is that they are targeting individuals and organizations that in particular have spoken out against the wars. This is something they all have in common. People like Medea Benjamin, Code Pink, Zoran Mamdani, also mayor of New York City, but other organizations as well, including a couple of Congress members that are also on this list of counterterrorism. So I really think they're going to try to implement another lockdown, but I don't think it's going to go as well. I don't think people will tolerate it the way that people did under the pandemic because it's like here we go again, right? And this wouldn't be because of an illness, this is because of oil.
Sabrina, this
Ultimately,
is this is explosive. What you're saying is, I'm actually hearing
yeah.
that from the first time, and I'm in this business of collecting information. Would you please kindly elaborate on this? And where did you get this information? What is it?
Yes. So the that document, oil sheltering in place, that was revealed to me. I want to say a couple of weeks ago. It's been a while, but it started going around on social media, and then I looked at the actual document. Like people were showing screenshots of it. Then I looked at the document, and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And it's an entire plan. I think it's like 10 to 12 pages, and they have the pictures, the diagrams to show you like how this is going to work, and how everyone's going to be sheltered like in place because we don't have enough oil. And I talked about it on my show at that time because I found it interesting that that document was out there, considering we had just struck Iran. So it's almost as again like they have already prepared for this. And I think this is something that people need to take a look at. Again, it's called oil sheltering um, stocks in place. I'll see if I can find the link to that actually.
And have you verified its authenticity in terms of linking it to the White House or Trump?
It is called, here's the organization. It's called IEA, it's International Energy Agency. And they published this on March of 2026, this year. This is new.
They actually published it.
Oh yes. If you go to IEA, you could IEA.org, you can see it. I can share the link with you like after so you can
Yeah,
see it.
yeah, please go ahead so that we
Mhm.
can share that. When we publish this. So this is that an international organization or is that a Washington-based Trump-aligned organization? What is it?
I believe this is a Washington based organization. It's called International Energy Agency. But what was interesting about this is that they clearly state right in the beginning The conflict in the Middle East has created the largest supply disruption. So that's what this plan is for. And that's why I wanted people to know about this. Like, again, it was published March 20th, 2026.
Very soon after the war started. The war started, towards the end of February, so they published it right. So they made it available. I'm surprised that there is not a big uproar about this, but I suppose it will happen.
Yeah, some of us covered it. Some people didn't cover it. I think, some people are like, well, this could have just been a plan, or maybe this has always existed. But it actually says on the website it was published March 20th, 2026. So this is a direct response to the war in the Middle East. And it's concerning. Because when I looked at this, it reminded me of the pandemic lockdowns all over again. Only the big difference is that they're not telling you you have to stay at home because of this said, disease. They're telling you to stay home because we don't have enough oil. And it just, and I think one of the things, and people have different opinions about this, and that's fine. But one of the things that, I could think bothered me a little bit during the pandemic lockdowns was if they can get everybody to, force us all to stay in for this, what else can they do this for? And now we see. So to me, it's just, I don't know. It's scary. It's alarming. But like I said, they already came up with a plan.
That's really disturbing. And do you, I mean, from your observation of the political environment, do you think that the Republican allies, the MAGA supporting allies, will stand for this or can stand for this? Because they were so much up in arms against the lockdowns for COVID.
No, I don't think they're going to like this at all, especially considering this is oil related and it's not like, well, we don't want you to be within 6 feet of a person because you could catch this illness or whatever, right? This is different. It's because of oil. So they're going to want people to stay at home. They also talk about air transportation, so the airports, planes. This is another thing. And again, not to scare people, but there are people that travel for work. It's just a reality. They have to fly. They talked about that in this report. They also talk about cooking fuels, where they're trying to tell you how you're gonna be able to cook. Because again, this is all connected. So it's
My
like,
God.
oh yes, oh yes. Oil use in industry. They talk about this as well. The road transport fuels. It's just it's scary and it's alarming. I may have to mention this again on my show just because I want people to understand that the plan is already in place, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems. I really do. I don't think, I know some people were upset because of the pandemic lockdowns, but this is a whole different ball game. This
Well,
is,
this is
you
at
need to stay
another
home with
level.
oil. Yeah.
And it's totally dystopian, completely dystopian.
Yes, and there was also a report that was released recently as well. The billionaire class, they are saying that we need to remove 4 million people from the planet to save the planet.
4 million or 4 billion.
4 million.
Oh my God.
4 million.
And this is
So,
one way to do it.
or the other way is war.
Yes, of course, it's
Mhm.
ongoing war. Well,
Yeah.
I am old enough to remember the end of the Vietnam War, when Americans were being evacuated off a rooftop in Hanoi with helicopters, and everybody thought that maybe maybe a whole bunch of people will be left behind, which is what happened. And the war at that time was obviously very, very unpopular. But Trump has already achieved this level of unpopularity with this war in a few months, what Vietnam took years to achieve. I mean, this is a very unpopular war. I think maybe closer to like 27% people support this, who will always support it. This is the core MAGA. That, but how can he survive politically with the support that 75% of the Americans are against this war? How can he keep going?
Um, I don't think he's gonna follow the rules. To be honest with you, he doesn't really care. Um, this was a miscalculation. From what I was told, the Trump administration did not expect backlash um, with the Iran war. What I mean by that is they know a lot of people were angry and upset about Gaza, but they did not expect the majority of Americans to be against a war with Iran because, it's common belief that, well, people are afraid of Iran or people, had their own interpretations about what Iran was and what the regime is and all that type of thing. And the Trump administration believed that all they had to do was to explain to the American people that they need regime change. Iran is killing thousands of people, and the number continues to change. One minute it's 30,000, then it's 40,000, it's 50,000. They just keep changing the number. They
Yes,
thought that this was good. This is what they were told. This was supposed to be an easy win, just like when they captured Maduro in Venezuela. That all they had to do was to take out Ayatollah Khamenei and then install a Western puppet. And the people in Iran would be very happy because they were told that the Iranian people despised Ayatollah Khamenei. That wasn't true. And he saw that during his funeral when all of those people, millions of people out in the street, mourning the death of Ayatollah Khamenei, that was another embarrassment for Trump. So he had to admit, he said, I was told they did not like him. A lot of this was coming from Benjamin Netanyahu, by the way, just FYI. That's where a lot of this information was coming from. So he was told that this was going to be an easy in and out job and this was actually going to not even be an issue. The public resentment came as a surprise because what he also did not realize, again, listening to Benjamin Netanyahu, was that a lot of Americans nowadays are anti war. A lot of Americans nowadays are not saying, rah, rah, go get them. These are not the days of the beginning of the Iraq war or Afghanistan. And there were people who were against those back then too. But the anti war movement has continued to grow in the United States, especially after October 7th, especially after watching the genocide. And so they underestimated that. And so that's how they got into the situation. And now it's like the best thing that they could do is to just admit they were wrong, they got it wrong, and walk away from this. But because of who Trump is and that ego, he's not going to do that. So it's embarrassing, and we still have till at least 2028 dealing with this back and forth because I don't think this is over. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. And then there's the other issue, which is Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, as it stands right now, there are rumblings that he is possibly going to run for president in 2028. He is a neocon. He is the neocon's neocon. He voted for all of these wars since I've been an adult. He voted for all of them. And he also wants to go after Cuba. So if Marco Rubio gets in there, this, what we're seeing right now, this is nothing compared to what Marco Rubio would do. So people have to understand who he really is. Then there's that issue with JD Vance. JD Vance's popularity is also decreasing. And I think because of his close proximity to Donald Trump, again, being vice president, similar to what happened with Kamala Harris when she was vice president to Joe Biden. And the reality is, you also have a young, part of the Republican Party, the youth, who are also not in favor of these wars. So they have a problem. And ultimately, I'm not convinced that Donald Trump is going to willingly leave. I'm not convinced that he's not going to try to become president again. I'm really not convinced. And I've seen some things happen, but my biggest concern is that he's going to try to find some loophole or some way to stay there. And that, I think, is concerning.
Well, talk about false information. 4 million people attended the funerals processions of Ayatollah Khamenei. 4 million, and it has never happened. That has never happened in the history of civilization. That 4 million people attended a funeral ceremony, and that should have been a wake up call to Trump, which obviously was not enough of a wake up call for him to say, "Well, I made a big mistake." He doubles down on his stupidity, doubles down on all his reckless actions, doubles down on all the nonsense that comes out of his mouth. And we see that right now. Iran is not negotiating. Our intelligence that we get from people in the room says that they will never back down from what they already agreed to do, which is the MOU. They already agreed to that. They are not backing down. And now the Gulf states, especially Saudi Arabia, are beginning to realize, my God, if U.S. strikes Iran, we are going to lose all of our energy capabilities, and maybe Israel will do the same, lose energy capabilities that they cannot rebuild quickly. So we are we are really in a very bad shape. Sabrina, what is your perspective? I mean, on our show, we talk with military analysts, we talk with other reporters who are in the region, blah blah blah. They give their view. You are a different person. You are a woman, different point of view, informed, well informed, keen perspective. What is your perspective? Where are we headed as a country?
I think we will find out, especially Tuesday evening, with some of these primary races. I think that is going to be a telltale. The America that I live in now is largely anti-war, and this I don't see this genie being put back in the bottle. We for years since October 7th, we watched a live stream genocide on X, on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. And so the America that I know, a lot of the people that I talk to are against the wars. There's a reason why military recruitment is not what it used to be, right? Like, especially the younger generation, Gen Z, they're not in favor of these wars. And so I think what we see happen in these primary races that are coming up recently, especially the Michigan race, um, that primary is Tuesday. I think that is going to tell a lot, because if El Sayed can beat Haley Stevens, who is taking millions of dollars from APAC, if he can beat her in a swing state, I think that is going to reveal a lot of things. So that's the direction the people are moving in. If you listen to the politicians, especially a lot of them are corporate and corrupt, you wouldn't think that. If you listen to corporate media, you wouldn't think that. But when you talk to people on the ground, the majority of us are in that direction, the anti war direction. We don't want the US government to continue to bomb people. We don't want these wars, and we want the US government to use those funds here at home. That's where a lot of us are. And I'm seeing that happen with people who are also supported and voted for Donald Trump. I'm even hearing them start to admit things are not working out for us economically. Why are we giving all this money to Israel? Why is our defense budget so bloated and all this little money goes to other programs? Why are we spending so much money on war? More people are starting to. I will say this, one thing I think that the genocide has exposed to many people who may not have been paying attention to geopolitics is just how our government spends their money. And so more Americans are awake now. And I see us moving as a country in that direction.
Well, Sabrina, he campaigned on ending forever wars. Do you remember that? I mean, that was one of
He
his
did.
constant campaign promises. I'm going to end these forever wars. And
Yeah.
and look at what he's done. And he's done that because he took, I think, $200 million from the widow of, I mean, I forget his name, Sheldon Adelson,
Hmm.
Miriam Adelson. So he's bought and paid for. So he's a
And
very,
those are his and
yeah,
those are his friends. Like
uh,
he's we
yeah.
got to remember he's a billionaire. Like he's friends with them too. It's not even just a I'm going to donate to your campaign. Like those are his friends. Like Miriam Adelson is his friend.
Yeah.
So it's just he's in that circle with that group of people.
And he listens to them because they pay him. He listens to them because they finance, everything else that he does. So do you see that breaking anytime soon?
I don't. One of the things that was mentioned recently was that apparently there was this is I'm paraphrasing, but there was this rumor going around that apparently Donald Trump was going to flip on her like after he got in, but that obviously that didn't happen. So I don't know if that was necessarily the case or if he said that just to make people think that and the people who were closer to him around him, but ultimately had no plan on doing that at all.
So how does this end then? This madness.
I think November is going to be the key indicator because in November, the midterms for the House and, of course, the Senate in Congress, that can shift some things. If some of these candidates that are running the anti war platform, not taking money from the Israel lobby, if some of these candidates win, that can change things because that'll shift the power dynamic in the House. Now, they won't be the majority, but they don't need to be. They just need to have a narrow majority. They only need five of them, and they can start voting against those bills that are allowing these things to happen. So I think that's going to be the determining factor. And then going into 2028, we would have to elect an anti-war. It just there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We would have to elect an anti-war candidate for president of the United States.
Well, that's a hopeful note, Savvy. And also, I have seen that, particularly with Syed Abdul, in Michigan. That's an extraordinarily important, very, very, eye-opening race. $50 million, I think APAC has spent with Haley Stevens, and still cannot get her, in any way threatening Abdul. So when Abdul gets, hopefully, it gets nominated as a Democratic candidate and then emerges as a winner, things in the United States can begin to change. So that's a very hopeful note, Sabrina. Thank you so much for coming to our channel. We are honored to have you here and provide your very unique perspective, very sharp perspective to our global audience. This is one other person in the United States who has a keen observation of what is going on, giving you their perspective of what is going on in this country and what it is that we are doing to oppose this madness that has been unleashed by the madman in chief residing in the White House. And hopefully we will succeed with everything that Sabrina has outlined that is going on. So if you like what we do, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Go to our Substack, same name, Transition Protocol, become a paid member, and we will deliver this to you inside your mailbox now 2 times a week. So, Sabrina, do you wish to say anything in conclusion?
Yeah. You can follow me on YouTube. My channel is Sabby Sabs, and you can see me on Twitter at Sabby Sabs too.
Yes, she is a valued contributor to this channel, and we are honored to have her here. Please follow her. She has been around for a while, and she has a keen observation and provides you a unique perspective. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you.